All right. Thank you so much for joining today's session on navigating CINAHL. CINAHL stands for Cumulative Index for Nursing and Allied Health Literature. My name is Mia Bolton, and I am the Reference and Instruction Librarian for Mount Sinai Morningside and Mount Sinai West. So without further ado, let's jump into our short agenda. I'll talk about the basics of CINAHL.
Mhm,
We'll talk about how to access it through the Levy Library. And
mhm,
then in the last step of, or the last portion of this session, I will provide an example search and we will look at the searching or the features within CINAHL, the how to search with Boolean operators, and I will give you an example search. So, what is CINAHL? CINAHL is a database that indexes research studies in allied health, nursing, and biomedicine. So, as mentioned, it covers nursing, biomedicine, health science, as well as alternative medicine. And the populations that are most suited to be searching this database are nurses. Therapists, this is also a great database for therapists, occupational, physical, speech therapists, as well as healthcare admin and
mhm,
students and researchers that are in any of those, studying in any of those areas. There are a lot of journals. You'll see there over 3,600 journals, and the
mhm.
literature is from 1937 to present day. So when it comes to searching, you for searching this database, you'll want to go to the Levy Library website. You'll scroll down about halfway through the page under and look underneath popular tools. CINAHL Nursing and Allied Health is there in pink, and that is what you will click on. There are a couple different ways actually that you can access any library database, but this is the quickest way. If you wanted to, you could click on databases here underneath collections and then click on C and then find CINAHL, but that is obviously a little longer process to get there. And if you are running into any, let's say like um, paywalls, or maybe you're realizing you don't have full access or something doesn't seem right, it is likely because you haven't signed in through Open Athens. Open Athens is just our platform that recognizes you as a Mount Sinai employee, and you will enter your credentials, your email, and your password. Once you see this sign, you will be prompted to click this one or this option. You'll want to click the top option here, Icon School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, and then you should have full access. And what's great about Open Athens is that if you are on the computer for, a whole session, a couple hours, you will not need to sign in back into any other resources that the library offers. So once you sign in, you have access to everything that the library offers. Okay, so moving on to our Boolean operators. I'm going to touch on this briefly and then I'll jump to CINAHL so we can kind of play around with this and see what this looks like in action. So, and, or, and not. These are the three Boolean operators that are going to help us create a search strategy in order to retrieve the most relevant results, the most relevant articles. So, when you are combining two concepts with and, you are narrowing your results. So you're telling the database that all of the search terms must be present in the resulting records. So everything, so when you say this and that, the both of those terms are going to be found in the literature. When you are using or, you are connecting two or more concepts. So you want to
Mhm.
think about all of the ways that an author or anyone who's writing something, you want to think about all of the ways that this concept could be said. And you can think about maybe the UK variants or It's usually unlikely that things are misspelled, but sometimes, it can, if the word is difficult to spell, sometimes, including a misspelled word could be helpful in retrieving more articles. But it broadens the results, telling that the database that any of the search terms can be present. When you are using not, it is in my own practice in searching for literature, I will say that this last Boolean operator is not something that I use very often unless I am very sure that I do not want something included. Let's say that a research team comes to me and they're doing research on a very specific population. Um,
Hmm.
and that population, let's say, is adults, and they really they don't need literature on children or adolescents. So in that case, if they are seeing that a lot of articles are coming up where children or, young adults are being present in the literature, we can include the Boolean operator not to exclude those terms that are bringing up those populations. Okay, so that brings us to CINAHL. I will open the database, but just to quickly touch on how to build a search in CINAHL, we're going to identify concepts and keywords for each concept, combine those concepts with Boolean operators, use filters to narrow results, and then if there are any citations or things that we find relevant, you can save them in a folder. So I actually lied. Before we open CINAHL, I have the example here that I will then translate into CINAHL. So here's our topic. The topic is skin-to-skin contact and breastfeeding initiation in the NICU. So translating that topic into a research question that is something that allows us to search for this literature. Compared to standard care, how does early skin-to-skin contribute to breastfeeding initiation rates in preterm infants in the NICU? So we're taking that topic and we're getting very granular about what exactly we are looking at in our research question. So that allows us, in creating this question, that allows us to pick apart the population, the intervention, comparison, and outcome, which is our PICO. So our population in this question are preterm infants in the NICU. The intervention is early skin-to-skin contact. Our comparison is standard care. In the outcome, we are measuring our breastfeeding initiation rates.
Hmm.
So when we take these concepts, we are we then want to translate that into a search strategy, which would look like this. This is obviously um, not it's not all exhaustive. There are
Hmm.
definitely more terms that could be added to this, but this is just this shows you what that template looks like when you are building out a search strategy. So we have our population right here,
Hmm.
intervention here, comparison, and what we are measuring. So as I mentioned before, we are thinking about all of the different ways that this population could be mentioned.
Hmm.
Similar with the intervention, comparison, and outcome. We are combining our like terms with or because we are looking for this or this or this, not necessarily all of these do not need to show up. We just need one of these to show up. But we also need each of these lines to show up. So we're connecting each concept with and.
Hmm.
So I'm going to exit out of this and I'm going to jump to Google. And I'm going to type in Levy Library, just as we talked about before. And I'm going to scroll down to I'm looking for. So I'm clicking on CINAHL, and here is that sign-in window. So I'm going to click on this top
Hmm.
option here, and it's going to ask me to sign in.
Does it matter which one you choose? Open Athens or Icahn School of Medicine?
So you'll always want to choose that top option. Um,
The Icahn School of Medicine?
yes,
Okay.
even if you're not affiliated directly with the School of Medicine, that
Mhm.
is what you want to click on. So now I am signing in, and this is our platform, CINAHL. If you searched it in the past, like maybe a while ago, then you'll notice that things look a little different. They did update their, platform,
Mhm.
but in my opinion, it is a little more streamlined and a little more palpable to navigate. So I'll start with this up here. So just noticing that we have Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai gives me the green light,
Mhm.
lets me know that we're
Mhm.
signed in and we're all good.
Mhm.
Over here, however, you'll see that it says sign in. Um,
Yes.
so what this over here on the right-hand side is that it is you are still signed in through Mount Sinai. If you were to go over here and click on this and create an
Mhm.
account or sign into My EBSCO,
Mhm.
this allows you to create those projects, save folders. It's basically giving you a personalized account to save your material. If you don't do this step, I mean, that's okay if you don't need to save anything or if you don't want to have like your own portfolio within this database, that's totally
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
However, this platform does offer continuing education credits, and the
Mhm.
only way to save those is to create your personalized account. Not necessary, but if you do want those additional perks like saving things, folders, continuing education, then it might be beneficial. Let's build our search. I'm going to just jump to our um, example and you'll see that it's built out the same way. So we have each line is connected with and our ors are inside the brackets.
Mhm.
And if we wanted to search different fields, if we wanted to narrow it more, we could.
Mhm.
But I would say that all fields is most appropriate to start. Yeah, this seems most appropriate. If you wanted to narrow it to abstract only, you could, so that
Mhm.
these words only show up in the abstract. You could also do that for the title, but we'll just leave it as is. And I'm going to hit search. And so we see that we get 40 results. So just scrolling here, we can see that a lot of the terms are popping up in the title. So it looks like a lot of these are fairly relevant, which is awesome. If we wanted to narrow this even further, we could go to all filters here and we can, select the things that we want to focus on. So maybe source types. We wanted to narrow it based on source types. We'll see that 37 come from academic
Mhm.
journals, 2 are from magazines, 1 is a dissertation. Maybe we wanted to focus on peer-reviewed. So
Mhm.
let's click on that and see how many are peer-reviewed. So 37 out of those 40. Maybe we wanted to search the past 5 years. So in the past 5 years, 13 of those are peer reviewed. So that kind of gives you an understanding of how to search and what is available through filters. I'm going to go back here. And those filters, you can also select those before you hit the search button here, and those are down here. There is an option to do first author is a nurse or any author is a nurse. Pregnancy is a filter, inpatients, outpatients, RCTs, and it gets pretty granular here, similar to the filters we were looking at. Underneath search options, I would say that leaving this underneath proximity is fine. I don't think that there's really any necessity to switch that. This is probably the most appropriate for most searching. Um, Underneath publications, you can take a look at which journals are underneath the CINAHL umbrella. And then CINAHL headings is controlled vocabulary. It's very similar to MESH, and it helps you find relevant articles even if your search terms don't match the exact words used in the article.
Okay.
So, for example, we were looking at premature infants, and if we scroll, we can see that these are the controlled vocabulary terms that are within this database. So if I was interested in infant, comma, premature, then
Mm-hmm.
I could click that. And if I wanted to get even more narrow, I could narrow it further based on these subheadings. But I, for now, just want to add infant, comma, premature. So I'm just going to add it up here and I'll just hit search to see what is out there. And then if you wanted to include this um, controlled vocabulary in your search strategy, you could
Mm-hmm.
also do that by including it in the population concept. And you'll see that there are quite a number of results here.
Okay.
Let's jump.
You be able to narrow it from the 20 time, oh, based on the things that you showed earlier, the years and the peer reviewed?
So you're saying that you want to try filtering? Yeah, we can narrow
Like
this
if you were to
down.
filter it, it would be the
Yeah.
same thing. I'm
Oh
sorry,
yeah.
can you go back a little bit?
Yeah, what would you like to
Okay.
see?
Where did you go to? You went on your right, right? I think on
Over
your
here.
right. But for the filter that you showed.
Underneath filters here. So you can filter it before you hit search,
Mm-hmm.
or you could hit search and then filter.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do by date, last 10 years on this topic, still
Mm-hmm.
kind of a lot. Let's do last
Mm-hmm.
5 years. So it
Okay.
keeps going down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to um, including this, like controlled vocabulary in your search strategy, let's see, where is the recent activity? So this shows you your search history,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see that we have those results. I'm going to take this one, and then it's the whole search string here. I'm going to include, um, I believe this is how it's typed. Infant, comma, premature. And so now this controlled vocabulary is included in our search strategy. So let's hit search and see if we get any more than 40. So um, the answer to that is no, we did not get more than 40 results, which is what we initially got. So it's not really serving any purpose other than
Mm-hmm.
maybe if any new articles come out that are tagged under this, then
Mm-hmm.
that will show up. Um, I believe that's really all. Thank you so much for joining today's session, and we hope to see you in the next one.